Hey guys, welcome to the first ever episode of Record Collection, where each week take a record from my collection, tell you why it's good, why you should listen to it. No better way to kick it off than with one of the most successful debut albums of all time, Are You Experienced by the Jimi Hendrix Experience. So stick around.
Record Collection! Woo!
So, Jimi Hendrix, Are You Experienced? Possibly the greatest debut album to ever be released, ever. This album is actually insane. The way it was recorded, the musicianship, everything on this album is crazy. Came out in 1967 and recorded in England, and at the time in the US you could record on 8 tracks, but in the UK they were still recording on 4 tracks, and as this was recorded in London, this was done on a 4-track recorder. So just listening to this album, it blows my mind how good it can sound with just 4 tracks. There's so much stuff getting interweaved and so many different sounds and crazy stuff happening in these tracks that for somebody to do that on a 4-track recorder it's mind-blowing. Jimmy obviously had a vision and he achieved that vision. Mitch Mitchell and Noel Redding didn't really have a lot of say in what went into the album, which, you know, that was Chas Chandler's thing at the time. Jimmy was the man, and this was the Jimi Hendrix album. Noel Redding and Mitch Mitchell were just backing guys in Chas's eyes when this was released. So, I mean, there's so much I could say about this album. There's so much I could say about Jimi Hendrix. I mean, he's a huge influence on my playing. I mean, the first time I picked up a guitar was after hearing Purple Haze. I was 8 years old, had an old crappy nylon string sitting in the corner, and I sat there in front of that stereo and I listened and listened and listened until I learned that song, and I learned that song on a nylon string acoustic guitar. Just the main riff and the chords, not the solo. The solo came a bit later on. But, you know, this guy is what started me playing on the guitar, and I wish I could thank him, because, you know, the guitar's been a big part of my life. I've been playing for, 25 years now, so it's just I'm speechless with this album. But anyway, enough about me. So, Jimmy had been around the traps for a while. He toured with quite a lot of people on the Chitlin circuit. He'd been with Little Richard. He'd been touring around a long time. Not really getting anywhere, and then he got taken over to London by Chas, and the rest is history. I mean, the story goes he outplayed Clapton, and Clapton walked off stage, and he got in front of the Beatles, and 3 days after Sgt. Pepper's came out, there he is playing Sgt. Pepper's in front of the Beatles, for the Beatles. And I mean, in that era, you had to have some balls, I tell you. So, there was a story that I read where Jimi Hendrix got asked to turn his amp down while they were doing some recording for this. So this was recorded over 16 sessions, and he got asked to turn his amp down. He was playing too loud by Chas. And Jimi Hendrix didn't like that, threw a bit of a tantrum, and said he was going back to America. He'd had enough. He was back off to America. So Chas had Jimmy's passport in his back pocket, pulls it out, puts it on the mixing desk. Jimmy walks over, says, "Oh, you've called my bluff," and then went back to work. So, he knew how good he was, and he knew what he could achieve. And I mean, we've all heard what he could achieve, and it's sad he died when he did, because it would be amazing to see what he would have done if he had still been around. So for this album, me personally, I mean, there's not really any standout tracks for me. I mean, I can listen to this thing from front to back over and over and over and never get sick of it. And I really want to pick out standout tracks for this, but if I had to, I'd say Purple Haze, Foxy Lady, and Red House. Red House was a big influential song for me. It really introduced me to the blues. When I first heard it, I hadn't really heard pure blues before. I mean, Red House is probably more of a blues rock, but it is that really that nice electric blues sound, and I'd never really heard that before, and that's what turned me on. So that one, and of course the title track, Are You Experienced, is just an insane song. I mean, as I said before, they're recording on 4-track recorders, and the layering on that song, the sounds they're getting, everything is just how they did it, how they got that is mind-boggling. Like I said before, sorry to repeat myself. So you know, this really did, you know, start the psychedelic sound. I guess this is the psychedelic sound. When people refer to psychedelic music from the 60s, this is it. So if you haven't listened to this album before, if you've only just dabbled in Hendrix, like on the greatest hits or whatever, and you've never actually listened to the full debut album, I highly recommend you get your hands on it. It's worth it. It's worth it. You won't regret it. So thanks for watching first episode of Record Collection. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope that you've got something out of it, and I really hope you listen to the album. There is a link in the description below to purchase this album. If you purchase from that link, helps me out. I get a little bit of a commission, no extra cost to you, but it does help me out, help me making content. And you know, subscribe to the channel, leave comments. I want to know all about your experiences with this album, when you first heard it, what you love about it, what you hate about it, if anything. I don't think you will. But I want to hear it all. I want to hear everything that you've got to say about this album. So thank you very much for watching the first episode of Record Collection. I hope to see you next time. See ya.